Anthony, it's Monday, back in my home studio.
I double dare you to guess who I was just talking to.
Oh, well, that's obvious.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Anthony Melchiorri, so great to see you. I double dare you family edition to tell me who you were just speaking with.
Well, I'm very fortunate enough to know the great man, Mark Summers, who basically helped build Double Dare and Slime and all that stuff. And was obviously the producer of Restaurant Impossible and so many others, and responsible for so many of the big A-list celebrities' careers. And so Mark's a friend. I was just talking to him. We haven't spoken in a year. We usually speak every couple of weeks. And he's also a big hotel guy. He loves hotels. He actually said to me one day, he goes, even Anthony Melchiorri doesn't know this hotel. It's in New York. I was like, come on. It's I don't know the hotel. It's impossible. And he goes, it's on the Upper West Side. It's on 79th and Amsterdam. So, boom, I know the hotel because that's the hotel I made my bones in. I was And he said to me, he goes, it's the best hotel in New York. It's the only hotel I go to. He goes, ABC puts me there every time I'm in town, and I love it. I'm the one who got the ABC contract 20 years ago for that hotel.
Oh, that is hysterical.
I really wrote that contract. So I was like, the Lucerne? He goes, you know it? I go, that's the first GM job I've ever had. And so he goes, there's one thing about that hotel, and he actually taught me something. He struggled with OCD, and I struggle with it, not to the same level he does. And he wrote a book about it, and he said over the toilet, like sometimes you go in these hotels and over the toilet they have towels, the towel rack. He goes, what happens if you flush the toilet and a little water gets on that towel? I was like, I never thought of that. Mm-hmm. So every time I build a hotel, I don't put towels behind the toilet because of Mark Summers. That's
pretty smart idea. I remember Mark Summers from Unwrapped, where he would learn all about different candies and stuff like that and how they were made.
It was my favorite show in the world. It's actually streaming really well right now, I hear.
Is it? That's really cool. And, speaking about things that are really well, oh my goodness, the good friends over at Ecotech Waste, you know what I'm talking about over here with this great little garbage can. Buy one, buy two, buy several thousand years. You're going to need it because events are coming back to your hotel. What a better time to go ahead and do that. Let me run this over here. Ooh, wrong one. Ecotechwaste.com. Check them out at eco-techwaste.com. They're going to save you on labor, cleaning supplies, storage space, all of that kind of good stuff. And of course, tell them that No Vacancy Live sent you. And even though they are on Amazon.com, and you could click the buttons right there, you will save money by going directly to Eco-Tech Waste and telling them No Vacancy sent you. Isn't that right, Anthony?
That is right. I love it. I love the product, and I'm going to be putting them in every hotel I can.
All right. Yes, you will. All right. Before we bring in our guest, Mr. Robert Cole, the president and CEO of HVMG, I just wanted to say domo arigato, Anthony Melchiorri, because I'm excited. Styx has just announced some concerts at the Venetian Resort and Casino, September 21st, 22nd. Penn and Teller are coming back in April to the Rio. Things are happening. Southwest Airlines just announced an order of not one, not two, but 100 737 Maxes from Boeing this morning.
I tell you, I am so energized, and I can actually get emotional about it. MGM just posted that they had the best month of future bookings they've ever had. They booked more events in the month of March than they've ever booked for the future in the history of their company. Vegas is rocking. People are getting vaccinated. I'm double vaccinated. You're going to be vaccinated Wednesday. I've been traveling. You've been traveling. The airports are crazy. Everybody's wearing their mask. The restaurants in New York are starting to get open or are open. We're going, man. And just make sure you're ready to go because it's happening. And I can't be more excited. I think in some markets we're going to have the best year we've ever had.
Oh yeah. Well, let's find out a little bit about that by bringing an insight from one of my favorite industry professionals. That's President and CEO Robert Cole of Hospitality Ventures Management Group, colloquially known as HVMG. Robert, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it. Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate the invite.
Well, we are so glad to have you here. Anthony, you want to take it away? One of our listeners needs a link, so I'm going to send her a link to how to watch the show.
So My question is, as they say in my country, how's business?
Wow, that's a tough question given everything that's going on right now. But business right now, I will say today, March, this will be by far the best month that we've had since the pandemic. Both from a revenue and GOP margin standpoint, we're way ahead of our forecast. Obviously, comparisons to last year are still a little bit moot, but we see our it's the best occupancy month we've had since the pandemic by far, and we'll probably exceed a 30% GOP margin for the month as a rolled up portfolio. So, business is definitely better. It's been a tough 12 months, 11 and a half months, whatever it's been, but we definitely see the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, and it's getting closer and closer almost by the week.
That's pretty. Woo! Anthony, did you want to ask another question, sir?
Yeah, what hotels? Tell people what hotels. Tell them about your company.
And let me just start off by saying that today, and let me bring up a one shot here. I am not coming at you from the beautiful Hard Rock Resort in Daytona Beach, Florida, a property these wonderful folks operate. And you're in a lot of states around the country, correct, sir?
Yes, sir, Glenn. We are in 15 states. We have 45 hotels that are open today, and we have about 7,500 rooms under management and ownership, so including the one behind you, which I'm very impressed that you pulled that one up. So thank you.
Well, it's very detailed on all the work that I have to go through all of this. I have to go to your website and then steal a photo. So all the hard work was worth it.
Listen, Robert, if you weren't impressed with Glenn before this podcast, when you're done, you're gonna be so impressed with him.
I can't wait.
I saw that hotel. I actually helped reopen the Streamline Hotel right down the block from that hotel, okay, which is where NASCAR was invented. And so I know that market really, really well. I remember that hotel before you guys took it over, whoever took it over. And it was like nobody wanted to touch the hotel, especially in the Daytona market, because the Daytona market, you don't get high rates there. And, you have some major tent pole kind of events there. But, it's not a high-rated town. And when you came in, I was like, oh, there goes all the other hotels because you're going to take all the business because the rates are highly competitive. So how do you find that market? And by the way, do you know the Streamline Hotel down the block?
I do, and I'll even do one step further. That hotel, you probably remember, Anthony, that was the original Desert Inn.
Oh, really?
And,
I didn't know that.
Yes, and back, I'm going to guess probably about 20 years ago, 60 Minutes did a segment on the dirtiest hotels in the country, and that was the number one of the dirtiest hotels in the country of all the hotels they had on their segment. So
wow,
that's it was a hotel built in the early 60s.
Yeah, I did my show there, okay, and I can tell you it was the dirtiest hotel I've ever seen. And so I would imagine that award was deserved.
Well earned.
With that said, that hotel now is gorgeous.
Well, thank you.
Well, don't thank me. Thank the family that put money into that hotel. They've done an amazing job. I'm not involved with it anymore, but that family did an amazing job. The hotel, the construction company, Vasconi, they did a great job. And now it's where, like, up on that deck is where they signed a contract for NASCAR. It's the founding basically office or point of NASCAR. So I love that hotel.
No, the family, you're right, that they did an unbelievable job, and that hotel just recently won the Hard Rock Hotel of the Year across the entire brand.
Wow.
It's been bouncing around between number 1 and number 2 in guest satisfaction ever since it opened up. I think we're still number 1 on TripAdvisor out of all the hotels in Daytona Beach. And so, that is a credit to the ownership, and, they've done a heck of a job on the product, and we have the easy part operating it. And I'm sure our general manager may not like me saying that, but no, we've got a great team there.
Can you please open the casino?
That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Talk about casino openings, Anthony. We got to get back to Vegas with all of that stuff happening, and Virgin opening up their casino recently.
How did Virgin open without us? How did that happen?
I don't even want to.
Going to be there on opening day. What happened?
Yeah, our friend Raul left the CEO position, and I should have followed up with Ali Hope or Danny Hughes, president of Hilton Americas, or our friends over at Mohegan Sun, who's operating the casino. But it's good to know that I'm a failure on not one, not two, but three levels over there.
Robert, see how impressed you are already with him?
I'm more than impressed. I mean, this is unbelievable. This has been a wealth of information for me.
I know, Robert, you never would have expected me to be such a failure on so many different categories. Very impressive stuff.
One of the big takeaways is I didn't know Styx was still touring. So, you're dating me now back in the 70s. I'm thinking of all the Styx songs that are running through my head right now.
Were you a big Paradise Theater fan? Was that the name of the?
That was one, and there's I can't even remember the Mr. Roboto song. I don't know what the name of that one was, but that was
Mr. Roboto.
Okay.
So easy.
That was easy to remember.
Yeah, for sure. That's when they were in their artsy phase, and I think.
And don't forget the Ballad Lady too. Don't forget the infamous ballad.
Well, now no one's going to forget it. All right. Chris says, Robert just won this conversation. Absolutely right. So to answer Red Edwards' question, Robert is CEO of HVMG, a management company that represents a lot of brands, including that Hard Rock, Embassy Suites, Doubletrees, Indigos, Hiltons, Hyatts, Fairfields, Delta, Sheratons. I could go on and on, but a whole lot of different properties. So, Robert, in that vein, you're working with so many different brands that are out there. What are some of the lessons that you've learned over this last year that you think are going to help Power to be even more successful in 2021, 2022 than you've ever been before?
Wow. Well, one thing I've learned is that they're all very expensive. So that's one of the common denominators. And so what you try to do is, make sure you maximize the value that you get from all the brands. And, we have a saying internally that we use as a team is you got to bleed the brand. And, they obviously have a ton of resources, infrastructure, support systems, market sales and marketing activities. And so it's critical that, that we and our owners get our money's worth out of all the brands. Because when you end up spending all in, depending again on the brand, upwards of, 14% of your room revenue, when you factor everything in, you want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth. And, of all the brands that we do, you mentioned a lot of brands, but about 80% of our hotels are affiliated with either Marriott or Hilton brands. We also obviously do a lot with IHG. Hard Rock, you mentioned, we want to do more with Hard Rock as well. There's a couple things in the pipeline that we have active with them. So even though you listed a lot of brands, but a lot of them are within the same brand family, obviously. So that helps.
So let me ask you, I'm going to ask a politically incorrect question. I love all those brands that you mentioned. Okay. And I find a lot of value in those brands. But how do we justify with the third parties being your second brand in your hotel? Because the third parties are your second brand. How do you justify the expense of a third party plus a brand?
Well, the third party, you talking about like the third party expense like us as an operator? I mean,
no, hotels, Expedia.
I got it. Yeah. No, it's, that is I tell you, we're on a lot of the brand councils and even pre-pandemic and more so post-pandemic, there's been a lot of emphasis on the OTA business. And I think, don't correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you will, but I think pre-pandemic, the OTA segment represented around 11 or 12% of our business, at least our business. I can't speak for the whole industry. And that number has grown significantly since the pandemic, probably high teens, 18, 19% roughly. So, they're here. Obviously you try to encourage, and the brands very much try to encourage guests to steer them through their brand channels. But they're very powerful. They got a huge marketing and advertising budget. And a lot of especially the leisure segment, which is a big part of all of our business today, they're psychologically, they're convinced that they can get a better deal, whether it's Expedia or some of the other third parties you mentioned, even though they really can't. And if they went online, and book through the brand.com channels, they would probably get as good, if not, not better all-in rate. But especially when you get the points on top of that.
Are you hotels without a brand?
Sorry?
Or do you look at any hotels that don't have brands?
Yeah, we do. We've done several independent hotels over the years. I think the last count over the last 5 years, we've managed about 16 independent properties without any flag affiliate. Most of those are resorts.
So pound for pound, at the bottom line, you do better?
Are we better than the brand?
Or do you do better financially, pound for pound?
That's a tough question, Anthony. It does vary. It's a case-by-case basis. I do think that, independent hotels have a much better opportunity to outperform in leisure markets, resort markets, leisure markets, where you're not relying as much on the road warrior, the corporate travel, the group business that you do get a big hand from the brand. So, we have managed several independent hotels, in particular, in and around resort destinations. So I think there's a play for independent hotels in leisure markets, and that's where we have seen an outperformance.
Got it.
I'd be curious. It sounds like this conversation wants to go in a direction of how do you evaluate what brand is the right product for a particular hotel in a specific market. So you could educate our audience a little bit on some of the basic processes that you go through when you're working on partnering with a brand or choosing to not have a brand.
Right. Well, the first thing you got to look at is, number one, who's your clientele? Who are your demand generators, right? Because, that will drive a lot of, okay, does that mean, is it, that's going to steer you in a different direction. Number two would be what is available, right? I mean, you got to also look at your comp set and, especially with the premium brands, the likelihood of you having, multiple options are pretty slim in today's market. So then, you got to decipher, okay, who is left that is the right fit based on the demand generators and the location of the property. And then who, then you call that list down to, what is the return on investment? Is there a big PIP involved, or, so you got to look at the cost of the PIP as well. So those are the three factors when you talk about an existing property that you look at from a brand, the brand options.
That's very true. One of the things, just to, hold on one second, Anthony, I think your mic is all messed up. If you could check that.
Yeah,
One of
the sound, buddy.
What's that?
My mic was behind my computer. My sound must have been terrible.
It was, which is why I've in the private chat room, I'm like, your sound is a bit fuzzy. Please check your mic, Anthony. All of that kind of good stuff. Another side effect of not having producer Dave on live with us. But remember, he's behind the scenes helping book all of the guests. All right, so a quick point of information for everybody. A lot of times, Robert, I feel like it's not what brand do you want to choose, but which ones are left from which to choose from. And you just kind of noted that. And that also is a predominant driver why pre-pandemic, so many brands, some of the major hotel companies kept introducing all these new brands. They've already sold brands 1, 2, and 3 in the portfolio. Now they bring in a new one so they could sell more brands within that portfolio. How are you seeing that, Robert? I see you nodding yes.
Well, yeah, they're called, the brands have come up with the coin, and I don't think anybody's patented yet or trademarked it amongst the brands, but they call them swim lanes. So, you got
I called that my word of the year for 2019.
Yeah. So again, you got, companies that got, and I'm not going to throw anybody on the bus, obviously, because they're a huge partner of ours and a very important stakeholder. But,
of course,
to your point, you got companies that have upwards of 30 different swim lanes, if you will, using that terminology. They do, I will say the brands try very hard to kind of protect those swim lanes, but let's face it, it's difficult. A lot of those, say, for example, a Marriott, if you have a Westin, you're likely going to compete with if there's a Marriott in the market or a Sheraton and a Le Meridian. I mean, you are definitely going to indirectly, or in some cases directly, you're going to compete. Same thing on the Hilton side. If you got an Embassy Suites across the street from a Hilton, our folks will probably say that's probably its number one competitor within the same family. So, that is something that obviously the brands work on and as they develop their brand strategies and their marketing strategies and their brand positioning, and they do what they can to protect those swim lanes, if you will, but that they cross over, obviously, and we all know that, and they know that.
Yes, absolutely. The thing is, wait, Anthony, you're I don't know what's going on with your sound over there. While you fix that, let me ask Robert this question, or just say this statement. And again, don't feel like you have to answer. I think the biggest issue that the major brands have with their swim lanes is they approach defining what those swim lanes are from a development point of view, or not from how consumers perceive the brands. So while it may seem clear that XYZ company has this brand delineated this brand delineated that, it runs into the problem that you just mentioned, Robert, where consumers don't see it that way. And they're going to stay at whatever brands that they want to. And they're not really thinking, oh, that price point is $2 lower, so it's a completely different swim lane, right?
No, absolutely correct. And that's where it comes down to, as the operator, it's, that's your job. That's what owners hire us for, is that how do we differentiate ourselves, on top of what the brands are trying to do? And whether it's product, it's service, it's, it just comes down to also, the guests are going to choose where they're going to get the best value, especially, when you're going to get points, whether you're a Hilton member, a Hilton Honors member, Merit Rewards member, or Bonvoy member, you're going to get your points. And so outside of location, product and service is gonna trump everything.
Yeah, good point. So, Anthony?
Yeah, apparently I'm having some sound problems. I don't know why. It's the same mic. But anyway, so Robert, we'll try to get through it. When you have all those brands in the market and you have one brand that has different swim lanes, like as we mentioned, how you have potentially one revenue manager overlooking those 2 or 3 hotels in that market, and they know your rates and they have control of your rates over another hotel that's in your market, but it's under the same umbrella of brands. How do you handle that?
Great question, Anthony. And can I ask you a question before I answer that question? Are you from New York? Are you from New York?
Yes, sir.
He is New York.
So are the Jets going to draft Zach Wilson? That's my big question.
100%.
Because I grew up, I live and die as Jets fan, and I got my kids as Jets fans. So I just want to.
Hey, Robert, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm a Jets fan too.
We've been recruiting our franchise quarterback for 45 years.
Yes, ever since Joe Namath.
Right, and he is going to be the future of the Jets for at least the first game.
Oh, at least the first game. All right, well, good. We're aligned on that. So as long as we can get a draft pick for Sam Darnold, then we're all good. So
yeah.
Anyway.
You got your question there, Anthony?
Yeah, I asked him the question. He said it was a question. Pay attention.
I'm sorry, I was real worried because Red Edwards is saying you should unplug your mic and then plug it back in.
I think my mic's working okay now.
But Colleen is saying the Bucs are going to win again, which
I hope so. I hope so. That'll be good for me for a number of reasons. I won't tell you why, but
I'm smiling because I might have an idea.
So that was my question. But and again, Robert, in all seriousness,
right?
You've seen every part of the way of this show how Glenn has failed up his whole career. It's amazing.
I know. If I worked for government, I'd be a senator by now.
Oh, that's funny.
So, Robert, one of the
I asked him the question. He's got to answer.
He answered it, dude.
No, I did not answer. So about revenue managers, how do you? So that's a great question, Anthony, and it's really a much bigger issue. If you have the brand do your revenue management for you as an owner, which, they have great revenue managers and we've used them in the past as well. But we do in-house all of our own revenue management. So we don't have to worry about a revenue manager who may be employed by Marriott who's got to figure out, amongst which of the Marriott hotels that they oversee, are they going to, work closer with? So
they still have access.
What's that?
They still have access.
Yeah, they have access, but we make the decisions. Ultimately, when it comes to rate and what piece of business to take or what not to take and all of that. So that's one of the advantages that, and again, obviously we're not the only company that does their own internal revenue management. A lot of our peers do, but there is a distinct advantage to doing it. And we do rely on brands on a support basis, but we definitely do our own revenue management. We don't have that issue as much as if they did it.
Right. So speaking of revenue management, Michael Weinberg brings up a great point. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, as he says, as long as you're rev maxing appropriately, wouldn't it be best to keep relationships across all distribution channels? You never know when you're going to need to learn on and lean on any particular segment. To me, Robert, it always seemed that you have to have all of those things because they each work well at a different time for different particular reasons. How do you look at the overall panoply of options that are out there in order to maximize your revenue across all channels strategically at the right time for the right moments?
Great question. And again, that's where revenue management becomes so critical. And, we've got a team of, I think it's 9 individuals that are part of our revenue and revenue management team here at HVMG. And there is a home and there's a place for OTA business and for those segments. But to your point, Glenn, is that you got to know when to shut it off or when to raise the price. And the booking window has shortened so much post-pandemic. Right. Where it's, in pre-pandemic terms, it might have been even for leisure business, a 7 or 14 day window. Now that window has shrunk. In some cases, it's 3 days.
Wow.
So, it is something that you just got to monitor constantly on not just daily, but, multiple times a day, especially as we, with weekends, and everybody in the business now has seen weekends take off. We had our best Saturday night, since the pandemic this past Saturday. As an organization, we approached almost 80% occupancy Saturday night, including about half of our hotels, either sold out or came close to selling out. So, I wish that business was back Sunday through Thursday. Obviously, the corporate traveler and the group travel isn't picked up nearly as much as that. But leisure is driving everything right now, and that our number one customer, if you will, our number one channel right now, outside of brand.com, is OTA. Brand.com is still by far our biggest producer, but next to them, it's the OTA side.
Why do you think there's been such a surge? Hold on one second. Why do you think there's been such a surge with the OTAs of late? Is that because you're getting travelers who hadn't traveled in a long time and are just exploring all the options and booking, or is there something more sinister afoot?
I think it's a different, in some cases, again, it's hard to paint with a broad brush. Every market's different.
Of course.
But, we're seeing a lot of people in our hotels, especially at our premium branded hotels, who ordinarily, would not be staying there. Right. Because they can get a better price, and they're going online, whether it's brand.com or it's the OTA segments, and they're able to, get a deal that they couldn't get pre-pandemic terms, even on a weekend. So they're taking advantage of that, and it is, so that I think there's still, that goes to the point I made earlier, where we get outflanked on the advertising, right? Our industry, the OTAs, Expedia and company do an awesome job, advertising and targeting their customers, and people see those ads and that they're just psychologically predisposed to booking with them.
A great quick little statistic for everybody out there. Expedia in 2019 spent over $1 billion on advertising, for example. No single hotel company, no matter how large they are, looking at you, Marriott and Accor, can even come close to something like that. So they're leaving themselves open for other things to happen. I got to tell you, Robert, I'm seeing Airbnb and Vrbo advertising like crazy. I can't turn on a YouTube video without seeing one of those. Is that an emerging concern for you as you're looking to find new customers?
Yes, it's when you say it's the whole industry. Again, outside of, when you go to the brand conferences or attend councils, Airbnb is always front and center, is always a topic of conversation amongst the brand leaders. And it's especially in the urban markets, call it the top 20, top 25 markets, Airbnb and similar competitors are a force to deal with. And when you're in secondary and tertiary markets, it's not as much, but they're becoming more prevalent there as well.
Yeah, it seems, and they're having their best days as well. They're booking business at levels they haven't seen in a very, very long time, and I think they've actually seen some records. So, yeah, I was never really concerned about them. I always say when you open a hotel, that's 300 rooms. I'll give you an example. When I was in the market in Daytona, and I was with the Streamline, and you guys were opening your hotel. I was a hell of a lot more nervous of your hotel than I was two guys in an extra bedroom. So now that it's becoming more corporate and people are really kind of starting to do it the right way and do it at a different level, I'm concerned as well. But when you came into, I went right to your hotel. When you came in, I was very nervous. But the good news is you helped generate higher rate, which was good.
No, our average rate, we're going to beat we almost beat last year in 2020. We from a not necessarily a top line, but a bottom line standpoint. But we do believe that our 2021 will exceed 2019 in Daytona.
Wow, that is fantastic for that market in particular. Our friend of the show, Colleen Norman, welcome back, Colleen. Do you believe occupancy levels will hover in 60 to 80%? I guess this is generally speaking. And are hotels hiring employees back? On the second part of it, we've been hearing over and over again from folks that appear on the show that they want to hire people back. They can hire people back. There's nobody to hire back. How are you seeing it with that? And then talk about occupancy, please.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it is. In fact, we had 2 high-level meetings last week just on talent sourcing, talent retention. It is our number one, and again, most of my peers would say the same thing. It is our number one, call it issue, concern, resource deployment as an organization right now. Is that we know. We've identified a need across our portfolio that we need to add about 33% incremental headcount to where we are today. So to put that in perspective, round numbers, pre-pandemic as an organization, we had roughly, call it 30, just over 3,000 associates across the portfolio of hotels, not including corporate. Right at the trough of the pandemic, we probably bottomed out around 500 of those 3,000, and I think today we're around I want to say 900, and then we anticipate needing to get up to about 1,500 by July 1st, and maybe more if these trends continue that we're seeing, that's been going on, especially on the weekends. That need may increase, and so. We're going to have to hire over 500 associates over the next 90 days. That's a big number for East for a company our size. Ambridge probably does that on a daily basis. Right. But, for us to have to hire that many people over 90 days, it's an all hands on deck approach. We're partnering with our teams at the hotels. What can we do to help them source, hire, onboard, retain? It's all one package, right? And to your point, we got a lot of folks that left the industry, that couldn't find opportunities, obviously, in hospitality. Great, talented folks that just their jobs were cut or eliminated, and they left the industry to go do something different. And then on top of that, you got folks that are obviously getting these stimulus checks, and it's a great benefit if you're unemployed, and it's but it also doesn't incentivize folks to come rushing back for a $12 or $15 an hour job cleaning rooms, depending on where that goes. So anyway, that's near and dear to my heart and our team's heart. We're spending an inordinate amount of time on tackling the whole talent issue, and that is our number one issue. It's a good problem to have, right? To have to bring back people, and absolutely as we gear up for the higher demand that's going to be coming up.
Heck of a lot better than the chats we were having a year ago, right, Anthony?
Yeah, and I think what the problem is, and I hope that we fix the problem, is we've got to really, and we've said this before, we've got to promote this industry. If you come in as a housekeeper, why do housekeepers stay in housekeeping? Why don't they become front desk agents? Why don't they work in engineering? Why don't they become general managers? Why the vast majority of housekeepers once you're a housekeeper, you're always a housekeeper. We've done an incredibly poor job in really looking at that department and really getting that level of employee to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. Because it's not even an education or a skill ability, because you can teach almost anybody anything in this industry. It's that people in housekeeping get earmarked for housekeeping, and it's hard to get them. It's like if you're a comedian, every time you walk into a room, everybody thinks you're funny. If you're on one show, then you're that character for the rest of your life. It's of every department in our industry, housekeeping is the one that is the hardest to promote out of, and I've never understood it. And if we fix that problem, I think we can fix a lot of the problems that we've brought upon ourselves. It's always hard to find employees, and I think the reason being is because they see it as a dead end job at the front desk or housekeeping.
No, it's an excellent point, and on top of all that, Anthony, as you guys know, housekeepers not likely, in my opinion, have the hardest job in the hotel. And, think about the work they do. They're cleaning, depending, again, on the day, they could be upwards cleaning anywhere from, 14 to 18 rooms in less than 8 hours. And that's very hard work. And, so the thing that we've tried to do, yes, you have to be competitive wage wise and benefit wise with like either other hotels or even, stores and other, competing forces for that labor. But, when our surveys, what always comes out is the number one factor in somebody, particularly when you have turnover, we're leaving a hotel, and the number one factor in job satisfaction is who your boss is. So one thing we've learned is, in the hard way, is that, if you look at it, what we've done as an industry, in many cases, we've put people in positions as executive housekeeper, director of housekeeping, who may not necessarily be the best leader, be the best boss. They may be the best. Maybe they were the best housekeeper, or the best room attendant, or the best inspector, inspectress, or whatever. But we've done a poor job, and I'll stand up and say it is, training and educating the leaders of housekeeping departments so they can become a better boss, they can become a great leader, and they can motivate folks and who love working for that person and in that department. And that's where, when we have turnover, it's usually because a lot of times it's the issue with leadership, and we're just not doing a good enough job motivating associates and wanting to retain them because of who their boss is, and making sure our bosses are armed with the right resources to lead.
And it's not me, Glenn. Can you mute?
I did.
I think with this select service hotels really taking over the industry, a lot of people have been promoted early, and they're young people. They're very smart, but they're not good leaders. They're not good bosses. They don't have the experience. And a general manager has a tremendous amount of responsibility. And I think that's exactly right. Same thing with housekeeping. They get promoted into the leadership roles. But it's really up to us. Everybody on the show, including me, says housekeepers are the hardest working. Housekeeping is the most important department. Housekeeping. But then they go into their 18 rooms, they clock out, and they go home. And 90% of general managers don't know a lot of their housekeepers' names, and they don't even really communicate with them. Maybe there's a language problem. Maybe they're just not engaged. And I think we have to just do, each one of us, this isn't a collective thing where we all have to go have a meeting somewhere. We've just got to understand, when we're in a hotel, that you've got to make sure that you're communicating, talking, promoting, and executing a plan for housekeeping.
Hold on, Robert. Let me unmute you. Sorry. Go for it.
I couldn't have said it any better, Anthony. You nailed it head on.
So how much of this issue do you think is language based? And if it is an issue that I'm not going to draw any conclusions, but it seems to me that most people in housekeeping that I've come across speak Spanish predominantly. Is that holding them back from leadership positions, either from inherent prejudice that might be within the industry? I'm not saying specifically at any one hotel that's out there. And if language is an issue, is there anything that hotel companies can be doing to help make English a better language for them so they can excel within their careers? How do you kind of work through all of that, Robert?
Yeah, it's so great question, Glenn. And you know what? If you can solve that, you could probably retire. So,
Yeah, right.
So it's really part B. You laid out two different, what ifs, and I think it's definitely the latter in terms of a language barrier is definitely can hold folks back, and so I do think that, for example, one of the things that we offer our associates as part of their benefit package they don't have to pay for is, we've given them the opportunity through our PEO provider to learn more and, to focus on enhancing their English. Mm-hmm. And people are taking us up on it, but we definitely need to probably push that and encourage that more because, that will help them, to your point about, future opportunities and being promoted and, definitely being bilingual would be a big advantage for sure.
Yeah, I think there's two things, Glenn, if I may.
Yes, please, sir.
There's two things that hold, unfortunately, employees back, and I think management does a terrible job. Two things. One, when you have a 401k, a lot of your housekeepers and a lot of your front desk work, they don't contribute, and that's because they need as much money as possible every day to pay their bills. That's a problem, number one. So we need to do a better job there. And number two is when you do give Spanish courses or English courses for your Spanish-speaking employees, they don't take you up on it. So you've got to make it simple. You got to maybe make it part of their day. You got to pay them to go. You give them an extra half hour. You've got to make a commitment to help people help themselves. And
right.
That's our job. Our job is we've got to take the time, not just put it out there and put it on the bulletin board in the lunchroom and say, this is what it is. There's a couple of people I go back to that worked in housekeeping or have been a bellman or whatever, where I've literally taken a day out of my life and said, hey, we have to have a conversation because you're going to the top. You just don't know it. And you're going to do what I tell you to do, because if you do, you're going to get to where you need to go. And I'm going to work for you one day. And we've got to take that approach to those people that really deserve it and those people that really, really work hard, because they're nervous, they're scared, they're already feeling uncomfortable because they don't speak the language. So it is our job as managers to really triple down and force their hand in a very professional and respectful way.
Absolutely, and on to your point on 401k, I'll take it a step further. We believe we got a very competitive, insurance plan and multiple options. I think we give our associates at least 5, if not more options, more plans to choose from. And housekeeping is probably the department that we get the least amount of participation because of the issue. Just like the 401k, the issue, they need every dollar that they're getting in their paycheck to take home. And I think that speaks to, now you go back to wage being a factor, and we are definitely looking at, what is the right wages combined with benefits, and because we are competing with, folks, and we were talking the other day. There's a Target in one of our markets that's right. Offering, paying people $18 an hour as entry level wage. Well, how do you that's tough to compete with when you're starting housekeeping wages. And keep in mind, this is a non-union. This is not a major market, and so that's what they're advertising, and that makes it difficult. So you do got to have a competitive wage, and you got to do your best to the key for us, besides just sourcing people's retention, we've got to reduce turnover as an industry.
Right.
And that to me, that goes hand in hand, obviously, with everything that you guys just mentioned.
Right, and turnover can cost 3-4 months' salary for every single employee that you lose in order to replace that employee. So it's better to pay some people a little bit more, it seems, Robert, and keep them than to lose all of that money trying to get somebody else to work for fewer dollars.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Makes a lot of sense to me. All right. Yeah, housekeeper. Anthony's saying his housekeepers are being stolen daily. That's absolutely true. Over there, someone else's comment. I think you muted yourself. Hold on one second. Oh, that was Susan. Sorry, Susan. Susan gets credit for that particular comment. Yes. So I wonder why that is happening. It might be time to look at what's going on within that community. But
let me.
Yes, please. And I've got a new topic after that, sir.
I asked you to post that for a reason. Our housekeepers are being stolen daily. First of all, I just don't even like the way that was written. So I'll leave that alone. Number two, what are you doing? It's not about the market. Look internally. What are you doing? First of all, look at your P&L. What can you do to make it a very employee-friendly environment? Does that mean that the owner's going to make less money? Does that mean you're going to make less money? What does that mean? You have to make hard decisions, because people can't take people that are being well compensated and feel protected and feel that you got their back and that they feel inspired. I've lost very few people over my career because of wages. They usually it's a bad leadership, whether it be my leadership or somebody else's. It's about what are you doing? So no one's going to take your employees if you're doing your job the best you can. Now, you may be not a hotel that's making a lot of money and you're not profitable. That's a different story. But you really got to double down and look at what you're doing to maintain your employees. And I'm sure Susan's going to yell at me.
She says they're leaving for wages.
Well, maybe. Well. Let's see what you can pay. Can you pay more money? And you have to have those hard conversations. Listen, it is something that has been in our industry forever. It is something that's not going. It is first time I don't agree with Anthony. I knew it. Thanks, Susan.
That means we're having real conversations. The last thing we all want to do in this in our culture is say yes to each other, because then we're not going to find mutual.
Well, Susan, all I'm asking you to do, first of all, thank you for being a fan and watching. All I'm asking you to do is make sure that everything you're doing internally, you're doing to the best of your ability. And if you are and they move on, they move on.
Woo, she still loves you, Robert. How do you see all this?
No, I listen. I can't disagree. I'd like to, no, but it's to the point where it's a combination. All the levers that we talked about are all critical. Number one, as we spoke earlier, you got to build the general manager, in addition, above and beyond just the director of housekeeping or the executive housekeeper, has got to build camaraderie and build a relationship with each of their housekeeping team members. And that, building that relationship will go a long way to having housekeepers be stolen, if you will, using that term. It's not the end all be all answer. The economics obviously, comes into play, and we're looking at, more than just doing like referral bonuses, retention bonuses. Everything is on the table. Higher wages, especially over the next several months. We are looking at weekends where we pay a supplemental wage above and beyond the normal wage for folks to come in and clean rooms on weekends right now. So everything is on the table. Everything should be on the table. It's our number one issue, again, not just for us as an organization, I'm sure for the industry, especially in the housekeeping department. Because let's face it, when the pandemic occurred, that was the department that we probably, on a percentage basis, we had the most associates, and we probably did most of the layoffs or job cuts in housekeeping. And now we're like going back to the folks and trying to bring them all back, or a lot of them back, and either they got other jobs in other industries or other competitors, and it is a big issue right now. And you can't even find quality contract labor.
Right.
So
yeah. Now, another issue, Robert, that's we're seeing out there is the need to lower expenses and rethink about things. And over the past year, I think you've done a great job with that, with HVMG 2.0. Very clever, some of the solutions that you put out there. How did you think about doing more with less, and what are some of the results that you've seen out there that we could all learn by?
We definitely, like all my peers, I can remember, I think the date in infamy, March the 12th, I think it was, but we had to make some very tough decisions, and we went out. Nobody, myself front and center, could have ever predicted the extent and the longevity that the pandemic has occurred. But we knew it was going to be rough. We thought maybe, it's a few months, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 months, whatever. Things will be back to normal in the summertime, which obviously, it did not happen. But we went at it with, hey, above all else, conserve cash. Cash was king. And for us and our owners, we had to do what it took, knowing that, our occupancy was headed towards, in some cases, single-digit numbers. So we implemented a lot of different changes across our portfolio, and that led to, the last 8 months, our expenses per available room was about $39 as a company. It was $80 the same time period a year before. And the industry average per Smith Travel, they release their metrics every month on expenses that's rolled up for the industry, and the industry average was about 55. So we are still by about $16 a room. We're outperforming the industry from an expense standpoint. Our GOP margin during those same 8 months was about 24% versus the industry running about 7%. So we're running about 3 times the industry average on GOP, and then even in the upper upscale segment, that margin's even greater. So we've done. I got to tip my hat to our general managers. We got a lot of heroes in the field and their team members, and they've been doing some cases working the night audit, cleaning rooms. We brought in-house everything we could from a service contract and maintenance agreement standpoint. We ended up moving most of our salaried associates to hourly so we could flex their wages and costs with the occupancy. That was a lever that we had to pull to conserve cash. And so even in March right now, as I mentioned, we will top out at about 30% GOP margin, which isn't that far off of a year ago, if you can believe that. I think as a company, we were about 38 in last March. So we're gaining. And, some of it's revenue, but some of it's the job. I got to tip my hat to our team, our corporate team, and our GMs and their department heads on the effort and the creativity that they employed to deliver those kind of industry leading GOP margins and expense results.
I think every leader that brought their company towards the finish line deserves a PhD. I really do. I think the complexity of running a hotel during the pandemic and keeping the lights on after things are starting, when things are starting to get back to normal. I mean, you get a PhD because it really, there's a lot of management companies didn't make it. Some brands got acquired. Some executives couldn't handle the stress and got removed or quit on their own. So if you made it and your hotel company is still functioning at a good level, I'm going to send you a PhD with Glenn's name on it.
Well, listen, I don't deserve any of the credit. It's the team, and they really came up with 95% of the levers, the ideas, and what we can do to stay in business and to conserve cash. And fortunately, knock on wood, we didn't have to close a single hotel. We were able to keep the lion's share of our corporate team intact, and in fact, we've hired some new positions. Anticipation of what the new world is going to look like, going forward as an industry, and looking at everything from all of our processes and how we do business and how we can add better value for our owners, and where can we save money, what are some of the business model changes we can, incorporate going forward, just because business may get back to usual, and depending on the market, it already is there. But is there a better way to do business, a more effective way of doing business? And that's what we're doing.
Anthony, I do want to say that they've done a great job over there with being clever and finding ways to save money. You wouldn't normally think about saving money. For example, at their property in Vail, they decided to get rid of a third-party pool testing people, and now they're saving almost $14,000 a year in pool testing thing by just having the operations team go out and do that. In Greensboro, North Carolina, for example, they had to close their restaurants, but they moved a lot of that alcohol experience to its pantry and have been selling out a lot of the stuff. They moved 100% of its beer stock, making sure they wouldn't have to throw that away. And in St. Augustine, they really did well with to-go orders and outside seating options. So there's lots of things that you could do out there to reinvent the way you're doing business.
Wow, Glenn, we need to put you on our PR team. That was amazing. How did you know that?
I knew all that probably because your PR team provided me with that information. Okay. So you can give me credit, but like you, I will defer credit to those around me who make me look smart. So, Anthony?
Talking about someone who makes them look smart every day, it's hard.
He does a lot of work having to do that, Robert. All right. Before we, Anthony, you have another question?
I was just going to say this is the time of, shameless plug time. So, Robert, give us a shameless plug before we end the show.
Wow. Okay. I was not prepared for that, but I'll see if I can come up with something.
You could feel shame if you need to, but as long as you get the plug
Basically,
out,
all you have to do is give us your email. Your website address and where people can find you.
Well, no, it's I appreciate that, hvmg.com, but most importantly, speaking on, I really want to throw a shout out to my team. We talked about it earlier in the PhD thing. Our general managers and their team members deserve an unbelievable shout out for what they've done and how they've navigated through, has to be the most difficult year of their career. And that had to have impacted. I know it impacted their family lives. So a big shout out to my team and our general managers to they did all the work. I had the easy job, and so I really want to from the bottom of my heart thank them, thank my team, thank the general managers, thank my RVPs for everything that they've done to get us to this point, and as we head towards recovery.
And Anthony, because you dropped the ball on shameless plugs, let me say that they've also increased the portfolio of managed hotels by 21% since last April. So they're onto something over there.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you. We really appreciate you, Robert. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Anthony.
Hopefully live on the road real soon.
All right, see you at the Super Bowl with Zach Wilson. All right. Thanks, guys.
From your lips to God's ears. Oh my goodness. Anthony, first show of the week down. I'm feeling really good. I mean, even the positivity each week is getting more palpable.
So, Glenn, I got an idea.
Uh-oh.
We talked to our friends in Vegas. We rent a ballroom, okay? We get donations, or we just go to your bank account and we take all the money out, and we have a party for all GMs across America, okay? You're hosting it. You're paying for it.
Well, you remember I lost all my funds last week to you in our clear bet over there. So I'm now
Wouldn't it be great to have a big party in Vegas, invite all the general managers and just celebrate?
It really would be great. And I bet we could find some casino resort partners to help us out with something.
Absolutely. So if anybody has any ideas and wants to do it, I'm game. Glenn will host it and I'll drink.
I like that idea, except for the having to host it part. I'd rather be on the team drink. That's for sure.
So Glenn, a year ago, we're sitting here in our pajamas, figuring out what the hell life looks like, and we got to remember the hell that people have gone through. But it's looking like the light at the end of the tunnel is coming through the tunnel pretty brightly. It
sure is, and I just want to make a point of clarification. I'm still in my pajamas from the waist down. That hasn't changed yet, Anthony. But from the waist up, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling like business is back. It was so exciting being able to be down at a real verifiable hotel in Jacksonville last week, the Crown Plaza Jacksonville Airport. And there was a big party there, Anthony. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because a Marine was retiring after 30 years. And they had a big event at the hotel, and it was such an honor to be a part of something so cool, to see everybody rallying around him to celebrate such a great career.
Yeah, especially 30 years in the Marines, man. That person is America. And did you see that Asian American gentleman that was he had some kind of position in the local government, and he was getting very emotional about all the discrimination and hatred that's going towards his community. And he opened up his shirt and he showed the scars of, because he spent 20 years in the Army, and he goes, am I American enough? I spent 20 years in the Army and I got these scars because I spent 20 years in the Army. I thought that was so powerful, man.
Yeah, so powerful. Sometimes we need some of that to wake us up out of our collective.
Listen, if you don't have more gratitude this month than you did this time last year, I don't know what I don't understand. It's like, if you were able to make it out, and you were able to survive and really get through this pandemic and get your family through the pandemic. Man, I went to a restaurant and I ordered appetizer. And when I ordered the appetizer, I started getting emotional because I was just like, I'm allowed to order appetizers in my favorite restaurant again. It's like I'm grateful for everything. It's like I'm like, I've got a lot going on, so I feel relatively got a lot going on. So when I'm thinking about it, I just keep saying I'm so lucky I have a lot going on.
Right. I'd like to have more going on. So when you do bring your events back, everybody, think about having me keynote, have Anthony and I keynote, having all sorts of sessions revolving around us. Get us out on
it's
the
going to
road.
go, dude. It's going to go, man. It's going to go. It's going to go fast.
It is going to go. And speaking about going places, go right now to Amazon.com, get your copy of the adapters, which I co-wrote. Anthony, I'm now going to try to do more shameless plugging based on what you.
So read me something.
I should have picked out something ahead of time.
Read what page is Anthony Melchiorri on?
I'm not exactly sure, but on page 75, business travel, the butter on much of TT&H's bread will likely be reshaped considerably down, the effects of which will be dramatic. Corporate business travel budgets are being cut dramatically with no window as to returning until 2023, 2024. But their JetBlue may be taking off now to get ahead of the curve. If you'll pardon the pun, the forecast is for lower cost premium class to be just the norm. They've doubled down on their mint class amenities. We talk a little bit more about why they are making that first class play in this book. Learn more about it. Buy the adapters right now at Amazon.com.
So next time we're going to have more time so you can slow down so you don't say words like dramatically. And so no, it's I'm glad that you gave yourself a shameless plug. Go to Amazon, go to Amazon and buy the adapters and help support Glenn's book, The Adapters. He spent a lot of time on him and his partners. It's a really good book. I read every single word and I learned a lot.
Thank you so much. And check out our sponsors at Ecotech Waste. We really appreciate them for supporting us. So do us a favor and help support them. Any final thoughts?
I love you, brother.
Hey, love you too, guys. So love you, Anthony, and I love each and every one of you out there. Thank you so much for helping us get through this past year. Collectively, as a group, spiritually, emotionally, and a few of you helping us out financially. I really appreciate that. Of course, check out our friend Kayla over at Bingham Bathhouse. We got Han Solo and Carbonite over here. So she's giving money to charity. This is not a paid placement. Help her out, Bingham Bathhouse. All right.
So I double dare you to take us out.
All right, everybody. I double dare you family edition that I will take you out. All right, everybody. Remember, look, the light's at the end of the tunnel. You are vibrating with love and light. You are pulsating with love and light. You just need to make things happen. And just remember, do it now because you've only got one life. So blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See y'all tomorrow.